Hello and welcome back to the channel once again. Since it's already the end of the year, it's time for us to look back at some of our favourite games released and appreciate some of the good experiences we've had. As you might notice, today I'm joined by the Proob themselves, Dino and Rage, to go through
How would they notice in an audio medium where we've not spoken yet?
Each of our 5 favourite games this year. So we're going to start at number 5, which might be on all of our lists, I think, which is, of course...
Whoa. There's a much bigger issue to address here. Your name.
It's Aaron.
No. Okay.
Or Hollow.
No. All right, you need to conform. Exactly.
Even my dog's done it. He's called
Exactly.
Doob now.
So I have dubbed Cotton.
That's
the
animal
noob, so
abuse.
it's only fair that Cotton gets to dub you.
This is really hard.
A lot of pressure.
This is going to be in the title of the video. Whatever you say right now is going to be in the title of the video, and only now will people be like, oh. So careful the power you wield here in the future.
Timothy.
Ugh.
All right, Timothy, back where you were.
So, number 5, Apex Legends. It actually came out this year, even though it feels like it was 600 years ago, because it was like this unbelievably quick burn game. We all played it to death for a month, and then most of us just stopped playing it entirely. I only played it that first month, and it was really, really good. And I still really like the game and really appreciate it. I think it shook up the BR genre in a really good way. I'm loath to say it, but like... they needed to learn from Fortnite and update the game like regularly, really quick, and they just didn't really do anything. And we finally have like this whole new map and stuff. And I've not even played it yet. I don't know if either of you have touched it.
Oh yeah, there is the one with the lava and the ice and like the super elements
Well,
everywhere.
It looks
map.
cool. It's a lot.
It
more
does look really
interesting.
cool. And no matter what anyone says, Apex is the best BR that's ever been made.
It's a good step forward. I like it. There's a lot of positive I have to say, but there's a huge. I think it says a lot that I really care about BR games. I'm a huge fan of them, and I have like a few hundred hours in it, and I have thousands in like PUBG, for example. So I think it's good. I just didn't see it getting enough attention.
Well, actually, my number 5 has a / after it that says Apex Legends. So for the sake
Yeah,
of
I thought that was
diversity,
gonna be.
I'll back up and go with my wild card because it's not really a new game.
Yeah.
Look, I really like Hearthstone Battlegrounds.
That is what? How much have you played
been-
that? Have you put like 4
about-
hours in it?
No, honestly, I've been playing it nearly every night. It's really good. I have like
Serious?
30 hours at this point. My rating is just sick. It's so much fun.
Does it have
It's
ranked?
the best auto battle. Yeah, ranked. It's the best auto battler I've played by a long shot. It's so satisfying. And it has barely any of the pitfalls that all of them fall into really quickly. It's really, really good. It's simplified in a really good way. Like, everything, no matter what it is, costs 3. And everything, no matter what it is, sells for 1. And you just roll with that. So you don't really have to care about an economy side of things. It's just pure strategy in terms of what you buy and where you place it. And the fact that there's like 40 heroes to play and you get a choice of 3 and every hero power kind of changes what game style you're going for. It's really, really fun. It's just so much fun.
What about you then, Dino? Number 5?
Well, it's one that I think you'll both absolutely agree with me on, and it's NBA 2K20.
Boo this man!
Look, basketball's
I love sports
cool.
Yeah, man, I totally love baskets where the ball goes through the hoop.
And for the people out there listening to this who actually do know stuff about the game, it's a garbage game. Really, there's so many issues with it, but it's undeniably very
fucking
fun.
sports loser.
It's fun, and in my opinion, it's the best of the sports games. Like, of the sports games, they just have the best system going around with theirs. It's an actual
There is
functional
nothing
video game.
fun about a ball going through a hole, okay? A ball going in a
Disagree.
net, that's fantastic. But
There is
ball
a net
going
in
through a
basketball,
hole-
Josh.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a
but
net.
it's a hole. It's a hole primarily, all right? And you could argue a football goal is just a big hole.
I have
Okay,
no stake
okay,
in this race.
Okay, there is no net on the football goal. It has issues, but it's the fact that the gameplay itself is just the most solid representation of sports gameplay I've ever experienced. Like the game, the My Career mode, which is you make a player and you essentially just live life as a single player. It might as well be an RPG, except you play basketball.
All right, number 4 then. I'm wondering if this is on Josh's list, because he's played this one as well, and I thought it was really good. My number 4 is A Plague Tale: Innocence. Came out of nowhere, didn't really know anything about the devs or the people that made it, the story. I had no idea what it was. It came out, suddenly everyone was talking about it, streaming it. There was loads of YouTube videos in it. It took me like maybe a week after it came out to try it, and I couldn't put it down until it was done.
Just think Last of Us.
Yeah, exactly. Even though there's definitely some silly moments in there, a bit, silly characters, a bit, cringy. I don't know. I just thought it was a really memorable game, really surprising, like storyline. The whole thing was great. The progression of the character was great. The world was. I just really liked it. I didn't know anything about it until then, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what those devs do next.
It's an incredible first game, and
yeah,
as
really good
someone
start.
who's a big fan of rats. It's,
okay. Weird.
It's a really solid entry into the rat genre. There's not enough rat games, I think, and that's
you
one of the
should
major
make some
strengths of Plague Tales. There's just not enough representation for people that like rats. Like, there's a lot of other animals in games, but how do you feel about rat?
They're alright.
Okay.
Essentially, the category of games that's just playing a movie or a book.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I only played it
and
once,
you play
and
it because you want to know how it ends. I mean, the story's the primary reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Ain't nobody playing it for the
no, the gameplay's fine.
depth.
It's just it's like the getting in the car, and that's the car that gets you there.
My number 4, Age of Empires 2.
I don't know what to tell you. That came out
That wasn't this year. No.
quite a while ago.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, no, it was 1999.
Yeah,
Not
2099.
2019.
No, 20 years
Oh.
off, yeah.
I can
Sorry,
see how you got
sorry,
confused.
yeah.
That
Yeah, no, it's just
20
nines.
years
I'm
is a very small gap.
I'm very stupid. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. Arguably the best RTS ever made, given a new lick of modern graphic paint and some much needed balance changes and like new content and new factions, and there's like 27 campaigns or something across the globe now, and it's just amazing. It's
really
amazing.
I really like how you said much needed balance changes there. Like you've been sitting there playing this game for the last 20 years. Like, when are they going to apply this update?
The Age of Empires 2
to be fair,
competitive meta has, like, there's been pro Age of Empires 2 since it bloody came
Yeah.
out. Thank you very much.
To be fair, I feel like we've been waiting for like new Age of Empires something for like infinite years, and they just keep
really
releasing mobile garbage or like some
I
weird.
really hope they're building up to Age of Empires, a proper Age of Empires.
Yeah,
4.
one day.
I really do. Though there's a new unit that the new factions get, which is a mounted lancer that is so beyond broken because it has 2 range on its attack, so it can hit archers that are clumped up in a corner, which is normally how you deal with that as a counter. So
You're a nerd.
what? All right, Age of Empires meta is important.
Now the nerd's done talking, Dino. Can we get a Chad opinion on number 4?
It's NBA 2018. It got re-released.
Yeah.
Re-release.
2018, 2017.
Well, that's basically what sports games are. They're just re-releases of each other. Borderlands 3. I haven't gotten to play anywhere close to as much of it as I wanted to, but the story is excellent so far. The voice acting is ridiculous. The characters are fantastic. The humor is on point. It's perfect. It just seems like a complete return to form from Borderlands. The pre-sequel was all right, but this is much more Borderlands 2, where it's very much going to stick with you forever type of thing.
My issue with Borderlands 3 is if you liked the previous Borderlands, then great for you, and if you didn't like the previous Borderlands, it changes literally nothing.
I think a lot of the appeal for Borderlands type stuff is the characters and the story and the humor more than like the gameplay is like the gameplay, but like it's the world that they build around it that really matters.
Moving on to number 3. My one, I didn't expect this. I knew I was going to be playing it. I knew I was going to do some stuff on it, especially with me coming on the channel and covering stuff. You know what it's going to be.
Code Vein.
It's Code Vein, yeah.
Fucking weeaboo.
I can't believe, like, I genuinely believe this, but it is. It's the best Souls-like game I've ever played. So when I say Souls-like, because apparently I have to say this every time I say this, Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2 are the Dark Souls series, right? Code Vein is obviously not a Dark Souls game, so it's a Souls-like game. That does not mean Code Vein is better than Dark Souls 1 or Sekiro or whatever, you know? It's just, it's a very unique take on that Souls-like game genre. The visuals were super different, obviously very, Josh was saying, it's super anime, but they just went really deep into it in a really good direction. Not to mention...
Who's your favourite character?
Lewis, come on, he's the best. He's got like a great outfit and he's got the coolest sword that you can like get as well.
You are so stereotypically yourself.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't apologize.
You are so you.
I am me, it's true.
You are, honestly.
But no, seriously, out of all of the Souls-like games, they usually have like one clever thing or a few clever things. Code Vein, in this case, had a build that you could change on the fly, and as you play it, you unlock more abilities, more passives, and then you can bring those to another build. So instead of having 9 characters, like your dex character, your spellcaster, etc., you have one character, and you can do it all. And if you want to make the best strength character, you should probably play a spellcaster for a bit to unlock this passive or whatever. And it just meant hybrid gameplay, lots of variety, and every new stage, new area, you were playing a totally different style of gameplay, and that was just, it was genius. I really appreciate it. So it's definitely the best Souls-like I've played.
Also, boobs.
Also, I love boobs.
Well, we've already talked about my number 3, because it's Plague Tale!
Oh, I asked you if it was on your list, and you didn't even
Yeah, but I'm not going to spoil it, am I? I'm
well,
not going to spoil the surprise.
So,
Surprise.
despite the fair criticism you have, you definitely liked it.
Yeah, it's, as I said, if you view it as I'm playing a book or I'm playing a movie, it's a satisfying story world experience, and I'm glad I did it. And honestly, given how little games I play, because it just bugs my brain to not be working if I'm playing a game, for a game to actually make me want to sit down and play it in my own time just for me, that's already a big achievement. So, as one of the 2 games to do that this year, I've got to put it on the list.
All right, my number 3 is Mordhau.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that game.
I got a lot out of the game. I played it a ton. The customization is so nice. I spent like hours just making characters.
Yeah, you probably
And
had
that's
the
before
most
you get
interesting
the gameplay.
variety of characters. Like,
I had some fantastic ones.
yeah, my characters were like thin, agile sword guy, and then you had like
You're so stereotypically you, Aaron.
you had the bard, like the special character bard, and then my next
I
character
had
was
a bard.
big sword black knight guy.
And then I'd bring out this dude that's just max weight covered in like pillows.
Yeah.
The funnest thing we ever did in that game was be the builders just spamming
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was funny.
every inch of that
People
map.
got so salty, really aggressive
I didn't
in an
feel
unranked
good
game, in
about
a
it.
casual, like literal casual lobby. People were so angry that we weren't playing properly. Fantastic spiritual successor to Chivalry. I'm really looking
Yep.
forward to Chivalry 2, though.
Wonderful.
But you know,
Yeah.
weirdly, I see Mordhau similar to Apex. Really, really
Yeah.
fun. Extremely
I
burned
was just
fast.
about,
You know?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
just
it
about
is.
to say Apex. I think is the best battle royale I've ever played, but probably the least amount of time I've put into one
Yeah.
that I have actually played. Mordhau, I think, is the best of that type of game I've ever played, but again, the least amount of time I've put into.
I wonder
one.
why that
Which
is.
I think
Just,
says more about me and my attention
Yeah.
span these
Yeah,
days
than
than
the
it does about
game.
the games.
Yeah. For my
Yeah.
number 2, I think
See, I know what your number 1 is.
it's not really that surprising. But my number 2 is undeniably, and I think I got confused like Josh did. It's WoW. It's classic.
Okay.
It's classic WoW.
Yeah.
It came out in
Oh,
August.
okay, so yeah. August of
No,
like
no, sorry. It was
2000.
November. I think it was November 2004.
Oh, I just remembered that was a thing this year.
Yeah, I know. You missed it, and I was really upset. The pair of you
I
didn't
also-
play it.
Yeah.
Like,
Because it
it's so
came
lame.
out at a horrible time.
We didn't have any time to even consider it an option.
Well, in regards to the channel, you guys were doing coverage and stuff for Iceborne, so it was already
Yeah,
all hands on deck with that. So you just didn't have time for other stuff. And then Classic WoW, I don't know if you guys know, but
little time
it takes a bit of time to like experience and play it. But either way, if you guys didn't know what it was, I don't know where you've been, but WoW is kind of the biggest MMO, and Classic WoW is the original like version of it. It was the first couple of years, and even though it is a janky, dated mess in so many different aspects, and you know, in current day and age, the quality of life stuff we have, like group finders and that kind of thing, you know, everything's so sped up and convenient and so fluid now, whereas this is so much slower. Like getting a group takes time and social interaction and talking with people. So what ends up happening is I have a bunch of people on my friends list who I've done dungeons with because I'm like, yeah, that guy was cool. I'll message him later and see if I can get a group, and that makes my experience better as I go. It was the most social experience I've had in WoW outside of hardcore raiding, and that's what I really appreciate about it. I don't have to hardcore raid to get fun out of it, which is where I feel like I've got to with current WoW. Like, I don't really enjoy just casually playing the game. I have to be in a guild. I have to be raiding, you know?
There has to be like a purpose to it.
Exactly. Whereas in Classic WoW, it's like, I'm in the world, I can encounter random people. People are all kind of in the same boat. It's hard, so you have to work together. I need to know an enchanter, etc., etc. I've had a really good time with it, and it was genuinely a journey. Like, I only recently, about a month ago, got to 60. Would have been great if the pair of you had played it. I'm sure we'd still be playing it together now.
All right, my second place is what I can only assume your first place is.
I can't, you know, I know what your first place is. You know what mine is, but I'm upset with you.
I'd like you to stop referring to each other's numbers and just tell me what the game is.
No, man, just because you're weird with your fucking NBA over there.
Okay, I'm not
Look,
gonna,
it's okay.
I'm not gonna really talk about this while you talk about it, so go.
Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice.
Or in your case,
I guess.
quite a lot, lol.
In my case, 0. Okay, all right. How many attempts did Lady Butterfly take you?
More than you, yeah, I must admit.
I don't know. Well, how many? You know?
I don't remember. I think it was like 17.
Yeah, how many times did it take me? I have interest.
I think maybe 1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
Now,
okay. That is
how
true.
many times?
All
How
Maybe
many?
right,
you should
that's
bring up a
lovely.
different boss
Yeah.
for
How
And
many-
moving
times-
on
yeah,
now
how
to
many
the rest
times
of
did it
this.
take you
very
to beat
exciting, isn't it?
Genichiro?
It's, I mean, more than anything, the best. I think I'm comfortable saying the best combat system I've ever played. The sound that a perfect deflex makes, that ching, when that sound is heard, there's just this deep, like, irrelevant of the world, which is a lot of fun, but I'll be honest, I don't really care too much for samurai ninja-y stuff. It's probably the ancient, like the most classic ancient fantasy setting
Feudal Japan,
that's used that I don't really like that much, but it didn't really matter. When you have combat that good with that kind of builds going on and bosses that are that intense, it's just it could be just cubes, untextured cubes.
The first time you kill the gorilla.
Yes.
And then the second time.
And then the third
time.
fucking time. That's the one that got me the most. the
Yeah.
bullet.
Oh, man. The clips at the time. Oh, God, it was so good.
I think what it is normally you only get that kind of I need to win addiction intenseness when the opponent is another person in PvP.
Yeah.
I think Sekiro is one of the first games ever where I've wanted to beat NPCs as much as I want to beat real people in a PvP game because of my competitiveness. I think that's the best way I can sum it up.
My number 2 is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It's the one game that I've had time to just sit down and, like, just go through it. Nothing related to work.
It's fun.
As far as I understand
Completely
that game,
personalized it.
they essentially went, all right, what if we did Star Wars?
No, I was going to make that joke.
But made it Dark Souls.
Sure, there's Dark Souls, and it's a large portion of the combat systems based on that. But there's shit like the modern Tomb Raider / Uncharted styles all over the game. And
My joke was I was going to say, it's funny you said one game, because that was 6 games.
Yeah, basically, it is. And like a lot of people, you can say whatever you want about it, but that makes a good game. Also, it's just the best Star Wars game I've played this decade. It's literally the best piece of Star Wars media that I've experienced
But I would also
in a long
argue
time.
that objectively it's not actually that great a game. The bar is just that low.
Well, it's hard to
I
argue
think-
that, but...
I mean, that's a true statement, but I also think the game is pretty good. Like, I
Yeah.
think it could be better, but it gets the universe perfect on top of a pretty good game.
I would...
And that...
Well, I mean, how do you feel about the concept of, like, they really didn't push the boat out in any direction? They just made a core thing that was acceptable or good or varied, and then have Star Wars, which is good, and just explored Star Wars.
There is stuff like the fact that you can't cut human enemies, but you can
that's
cut
lame.
animals.
Oh, that's
and-
really weird.
Yeah, that's what gets me. Is if you can, if it's consistent, I can deal with it not cutting.
Well, what I need is a Star Wars game that lets lightsabers be as lethal as they are while still being challenging, which is probably really hard
It's
to do.
nearly impossible.
It's
it
like
would need
any
to be
non-lightsaber enemy.
100% like it would need to be 100% lightsaber combat. Like the ending is worth playing the rest of the game for, even if you
it's
don't like
very
the rest
cool.
of the game.
It's very, very cool.
All right, well, I look forward to playing it when I get the time. My number 1 is Sekiro, obviously. I'm a huge fan of From Software games. I think they've done a massive service to the gaming industry and combat and gaming as a whole. They push the bar out with story, and rather than just telling a story directly, letting you work it out with environments in the world. And even though Sekiro was by far the least replayable From Software game they've ever released, it was the most direct with the story in such a satisfying way. Stepping away from a medieval world. And like Josh said, the combat the best combat in all of From Software games by far in terms of melee. That was so satisfying. I played the game like a third time on like true hard mode, so with the demon bell on and without the charm from Kuro, so I couldn't block. I had to exclusively parry. And the final fight, I don't want to say the name, but the final fight in the game where you can't block and you have to parry every hit was the most difficult but most rewarding, satisfying thing I've done in gaming. It was so good. I can't recommend it enough to anyone who hasn't played a From Software game before. It stands on its own. But the biggest weakness of it is the lack of replayability, no multiplayer. You know, the Souls games are so good with their PvP and the community and the dumb stuff with that.
Sekiro PvP would be hilarious. Just ding, 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 ding.
I don't know how they would balance it or make it, and that's probably why it doesn't exist, but God, the thought of it, you know. Alright,
No,
start
crazy.
talking about Monster Hunter.
Okay, so
I just
Josh
hate
and
that
I's
Dark
number one.
Souls
Let's
is
say-
credited
let's
with
say-
that combat when fucking hunters have been rolling around for like fucking circus performers for 6 years.
Is
I
not
think
the
we need to
unique
do this
element of Souls. What was your number one?
I
'Cause
think
I
we
don't
should do
know.
this together.
We should take
okay,
turns just in case it's different.
No, let's announce it at the same time. 3,
Alright.
2, 1.
Sekiro.
Pogo stock.
I knew it.
Ponies.
I knew it was Pogo Stop.
Probably ironically, given the channel and everything, but I feel like this needs the least explaining or justifying.
I would
because
assume so, yeah.
no one watching this is like, huh, tell us why. What is Iceborne? Why do you like it?
what about it?
Literally no one. We don't need to go past that point of just
And the most
saying
awkward
it's
part is I don't want to get into. I don't want to say specific names because I know Aaron's gonna play it on PC.
better.
600 years.
Yeah,
It's
and,
only January.
which
600
January?
years.
This man, the first time he fought Nergigante, 4 times the dive bomb happened. He didn't even know it was a thing.
No.
Maybe
know it's an
Nergigante should stop drinking.
It's just casually walking around and Nergi aims it behind you or something.
It was an easy fight.
Really?
As an expansion to a game, like how it was big. I know that.
It could be a full release Monster Hunter.
Yeah,
That's how Monster Hunter have
there's that
always
much.
done their expansions. They've
Yeah, there's
always
there's a
just
lot of
absolutely
content,
packed
but
it.
what I'm asking is it really, if you're talking about DLC or like updates to
There is
core
more content
gameplay,
in Iceborne than there was in
Than
the base game.
world, yeah.
that's mad.
It's more than a full video game's
Like
worth
it's
of
more than
content.
doubled the monster roster.
I like the comparison between Zelda games and how they were all the same game, essentially, just different worlds, slightly different story, and then Breath of the Wild being so different, so different. I kind of like the comparison between original Zelda games and then Breath of the Wild, and then Monster Hunter games and Monster Hunter World, bringing it to the West. It was super different, but I don't think any other
That's
game,
fair.
yeah, has done that kind of shift, and I can see all the people who like Breath of the Wild but just prefer the older style. These people are never gonna love like Monster Hunter
Yeah.
World in
Well,
the way
there's
they
It's
loved
just
the
a
I mean,
completely
originals.
different experience.
You
really.
can't deny Capcom's biggest selling game of all time being
Yeah,
World.
like it's got to say
know
something
Iceborne.
that Monster Hunter being popularized in the West is World's results.
Oh, that was one of the bigger criticisms. It's the fact that they consider the game easier because, you know, you've got more healing and the healing's
Yeah.
easier. What do you think about that?
The reason the old games were hard is because of the ease of controlling them. Like
Yeah.
the actual monsters themselves, their attack patterns and how they move. Objectively, Dark Souls isn't that hard, but then you add in how
Clunky
like, wading
and-
through treacle
Yeah.
controlling it is, and that's
Yeah.
where the difficulty comes from. Like the actual monsters themselves have never been harder because they're faster, smoother.
Yeah,
got
that's the
more
thing,
variance,
that's
they're
that-
they
what I can
more
say about
intelligent.
Souls.
these
Yeah.
things. Like
You just have more tools and
Yeah,
smoothness
yeah.
to deal with them. That's
very
the difference.
specifically, actually, we have a bunch of returning monsters. And these returning monsters, when you compare them to the way that the old versions of them work,
Way more
they're
intense.
A lot of generally across the board, some of their animations are faster. They've got less time between the attacks. Like they had to bring them up just a touch to match the new pace of the game.
I guess that's the comparison, and that's what's always going to be argued over is giving player agency versus the difficulty of what you're actually against. Like, what's harder? You know, is it harder to have an easier enemy but less player agency, or more player agency but
Yeah.
a much harder fight? And I think that's something people will never agree on. But I'm glad you guys liked it. I mean, I probably would have worked that out on my own if I did some like sleuthing, did some detective work.
If you'd done any research, we wouldn't even
might have got
be
there.
here.
A brief glance at the YouTube channel in the last 2 years.
So for
I don't know, it's pretty well hidden.
But I think that'll do for it's our first kind of, feels like, at least the first one I've been part of, more podcasty, long-form chat video. We hope you guys enjoyed something like this. We're looking to do another one for the end of the year, to talk about the best games in the decade, what we're excited to talk about. So let us know if you enjoyed this with a like, or let us know what your favorite game this year was in the comments. But for now, thank you, Dino and Josh, Proob. This has been Timothy, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, guys.
Bye.